So this is our second heat pump webinar. Appreciate everybody attending this evening. We had a great turnout the first time around, so we decided to do a second version. So happy to have everybody here. Feel free to, well, I guess you're keeping your cameras off, but if you want to ask questions, please use the raise your hand function or put them in the chat box, and we can facilitate through the meeting. So Niall and I are going to kick things off with a bit of a background on the city and programs and policy landscape promoting energy efficiency and climate action. Then we're also pleased to have Aggie Black and Tim Takaro here to share their personal experience with decarbonizing their home and putting in a ductless heat pump as well as a heat pump water heater. So we're happy to have them here to share their experience. And then the bulk of the time is going to be with our friends Elena and Sam, who are going to walk us through the heat pump information session. So with that, we can get started.
Hey everyone, thanks Ryan, and thanks everyone for bearing with us as we sorted out these technical difficulties. I'll start off just by providing a brief overview of our climate action work. So it's a bit of background. In 2019, our council declared a climate emergency, which set forth in motion initiatives helping to support our pathway towards a zero carbon future by 2050. So as part of that declaration, our council developed the 7-bolt step framework, which is a series of steps essentially, or principles that will help support the implementation of our climate action plan. And so bold steps number 3, which looks at carbon-free homes and buildings, outlines strategies to get towards net zero emissions by 2030. So by 2030, we're hoping to have all new and replacement heating and cooling systems in the West be completely zero emissions. Similarly with bold step 5, it outlines strategies to advance our microgrid and develop renewable energy strategies. Next slide, please. And so with the climate emergency, our council then set forth in motion to develop our community energy and emissions plan, which is essentially just a roadmap that'll help us get to our 2050 emission reduction targets. And we're right in the midst of developing this now, and we're hoping to finalize a final draft of it over the next month or so. And what we found is that our building sector represents a significant source of emissions. And so a key action area in our SEEP is looking at ways to reduce emissions and energy consumption from our buildings. And so we've outlined strategies that looks at setting high performance requirements for new construction through Energy Step Code, and then also building retrofit strategies in addition to building electrification. So this is where heat pumps will play a very key role. And if you want to stay updated on our Community Energy and Emissions Plan project, feel free to visit our Be Heard New West webpage. We'll be posting updates. And so with that, I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
Okay, yeah, for those who don't know, Energy Save New West is our local born and bred community energy program that was launched back in 2013. So it is designed, mobilized and managed by the City of New Westminster. And it's a comprehensive and coordinated program to address energy efficiency, conservation, and GHG reductions in buildings. So we focus on specifically with existing homes, things like energy assessments, post-assessment guidance and consultation on energy retrofits, and then obviously access to any rebates and incentives for doing any envelope or mechanical HVAC upgrades. Since starting the program, though, we looked at existing homes first as our primary buildings, but the program has evolved quite a bit to incorporate additional services and solutions to support different building types, including businesses, multi-unit residential pilots. We've done a lot of work in new home construction with green building and energy step code, which some people might be familiar with on the call. And then also the adoption of local generated renewable energy through our urban solar garden initiative. Next slide, please. And then more specifically, just on our existing homes, because I think that's where we're focusing in on tonight, we really focus our efforts on helping homeowners access energy evaluations as their first step on the home energy upgrade journey. So we provide people with access to energy advisors and subsidies for the cost of the energy evaluations. So homeowners only pay $75 as an upfront fee and as an upfront fee, and the city covers the balance of the cost for the pre-upgrade energy evaluation. So to date, we've completed, I think, over 500 energy evaluations now in the city. And then in addition to that, we also work with topping up fuel switching for heat pumps. So there's quite a few different incentives that are out there, and the city provides an additional $350 for those who are switching over from natural gas heated equipment to electric heat pumps. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, for those who aren't registered, we definitely encourage you to sign up to our monthly newsletter, which is offers the latest information in terms of energy efficiency, industry updates, rebates and incentives, helpful homeowner tips, and then just general sort of program and policy updates from both provincially, federally, and at the city level. And with that, I will turn it over to Elena and Sam, who are going to facilitate the rest of the, oh no, I will not do that yet. Aggie and Tim are here to speak about first up about their experience with their heat pump retrofit. So we thought last time around we didn't have this aspect, but we've got quite a few people who have gone through the process now. And so we asked them to come tonight, and they were grateful enough to do that for us, to talk about their experience with going through this process and getting a heat pump. So what did they learn? What came about as part of doing that upgrade? So with that, I'll let Aggie and Tim jump in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ryan. So I'm going to give you a little background, and then I have to leave to go to another meeting, unfortunately, but Tim is on the call, so he can answer any questions that people might have. So our reasons for wanting to switch were what Ryan said, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. So we really wanted to get our home away from fossil fuels. We know that in BC, there's lots of clean hydro produced electricity, that heat pumps were more efficient. And additionally, this is going to give us air conditioning, which I wish we didn't need, but we do increasingly. And the city has been incredibly helpful in navigating the process of how to go about this, and then hopefully the whole process of rebates. So we started by scheduling the pre-project energy assessment. Those guys were great. It was like a team of 3 people, I think, who came and spent hours looking for what parts of our home were efficient and what parts needed improvement the most. We worked with a company called to get a bid. They were also really helpful. And then they were able to send the product model numbers and brand names to the city, who could assure us that these were units that would qualify us for rebates. We talked through the process of the fact that we have to convert our entire home. We can't just convert one level to be eligible for rebate. So that was fine. We're allowed to keep our little gas fireplace in the living room, and then we have a gas barbecue on the deck, but otherwise the entire house is now heated by electric, and 3 levels are heated by heat pump. And our hot water is also now heated with the heat pump. The only challenges really that we've had is that we live in an old home. You can probably tell by those photos, built in 1912. So the first thing that the contractor said is we had to make sure our electric panel was adequate to convert us to heat pumps, and it wasn't. So that was a bit of an expense we weren't anticipating. So we had to have an electric panel upgrade. And some of you may have noticed electricians are a little bit hard to come by these days. So that took a few weeks and delayed us a little bit. But then we got the panel upgraded. that, as I said, that was about $7,000, which was money we weren't anticipating spending, but it's done and we were really committed to the project. So we went ahead with that. And then installation was great. I mean, if any of you have been to, I think I've seen these in several other countries, definitely in Europe. These what are called mini splits. So that's the heat pump, that's the heat and air conditioner and that white thing above the photo in our dining room. So I don't mind the look of them at all. I know there are people who in an older home, in a character home might not want to have something disrupting your ceiling like that, but they're in our dining room, not in the living room, and they're in the kitchen. And then they're in both of the bedrooms upstairs and the den. And then in the basement, there are 2 small rooms that have smaller heat pumps, but they heat incredibly well. We haven't had to use them yet as air conditioners. They're quiet, they're clean. They also filter the air, which is great. So anybody that has seasonal allergies, this is going to be better. And when they came and did the installation, it was like mess free. They did an incredible job. And those, you can see there what they look like on the outside. They don't take up a lot of space and they're quite quiet. So those white tubes are just running down the side of our house. So from the front of the house, you don't see anything different. From the back of the house, you don't see anything different. If you walk down the side of our house, you would see those white tubes. So I'll just leave it there and see if people have questions. I should say that we've just started the process of the rebate, so I can't really comment on how long that's going to take because we're waiting for the post installation energy audit. And once we've done that, we qualify for a whole list of rebates. So Ryan's assistant or colleague has sent me a huge list of rebates that we potentially qualify for.
Aggie, just one question here, just around the electric service upgrade, was asking panel upgrade to 200 amp service.
I want to say it was more than that. Tim, do you remember how much they upgraded us to? I think it doubled the amount of electricity that is coming into our home.
Yeah, it's the amperage I'm not sure about. It's 240 volts. And it was doubling the amperage, but I'm not sure where we started.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in speaking with the electric utility, you went from a 100 amp panel to 200 amp panel.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And then we had a question just around the so you've got multiple heads in the house off of 2 units outside.
Right.
How many heads do you have in the home? How many indoor
7.
units?
7. Yeah.
And each of the conduits is for 1 unit with the refrigerant.
I think that's right. Although I'm looking there and there's, and maybe 1 is for the hot water because I'm not sure why there are 3. There's 1 heat pump externally on the east side of the house for the ones that are on those bedrooms and the dining room. And then 1 is on the west side of the house for the ones that are in the basement and in the dining room right above me.
Okay. Yes, and can these be connected to existing ducts? I think we'll let Sam and Elena are going to talk through different technologies and things. So we'll leave that question for their conversation. All right.
Yeah, we didn't have any ducts. We were unfortunate in that way. I think it's a simpler process if you
had in-floor radiant, right? With a gas boiler?
We had a gas boiler with forced air.
No,
Is that right, Tim?
No,
I never
no, in-floor radiant. And
oh, we did.
it was baseboard radiant heat.
Okay.
Perfect. Oh, baseboards. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. With that,
Janice has a question there, Ryan.
Oh, can I install?
Switlow.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
No worries, she has her hand up, so I just unmuted her.
Oh, okay. Janice?
Hi, can you hear me? I was just wondering if you'll be covering ranges of costs, like what we're kind of looking at. I appreciate this is a whole large home. We're actually in a condo. So I'm just wondering if there might be some coverage of that. I don't expect people to disclose personal information, but just having an idea of what we're looking at.
Yep. Elena and Sam will dig into that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, Aggie, Tim, thank you so much for providing your experience. That's super helpful for us as well as for others joining us who are thinking about electrifying and decarbonizing. So really appreciate you making the time. And with that, we'll let Elena and Sam get into the information session.
Okay, great. We're really glad we did it. And it's just great that the city is supporting people to do this. So thanks for all your help.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and we're also joined by my colleague, Ellie, and we are here representing the Clean BC Community Energy Coach Program. Our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the Clean BC rebate programs, as well as the education of heat pumps. We will be sharing a number of different resources, as you can see from the agenda slide here, that will cover lots of different topics. And I have also caught wind of some of the questions in the chat, and I'll be quick to answer those shortly. Just a couple quick notes. So of course, the webinar today is being recorded. So it's important to note that all of the rebate amounts that will be discussed today are what is available today, May 26, 2022. And for the most up-to-date information on rebates, please visit betterhomesbc.ca. Again, I'll be in the chat helping to answer questions along the way. And with the questions that do come through, we'll be putting together a Q&A document alongside the slide deck and a copy of the recording, and that will get sent out to all of the participants and registrants who aren't able to join us today. So stay tuned for that as well. And I'll pass things over to Ellie.
Yeah, good evening from me as well. My name is Elena, or Ellie. I'm also with the Community Energy Coach Program. Very excited to tell you more about heat pumps today. We have a pretty tight schedule, so won't be able to get into detail about each of those topics, but I'll cover the most important ground, and then we'll hopefully have some time to answer a few questions. But without further ado, let's get started on this. So I want to start by talking about why you hear the word heat pump absolutely everywhere and why you see the ads everywhere. And really the most important reason for that is that, climate change is real and we are in a climate crisis, and different governments adopt to this climate crisis in different ways. All the governments have their different policies, and so do we here in BC. Ours is called the Clean BC strategy, and more specifically, we got the roadmap to 2030, which is really a policy document, a strategy document, how we can move to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions in the province by 2030 significantly, to then reduce them even further to net zero by 2050. And the most important one of the many strategies to do that is decarbonizing our buildings by using low carbon technologies such as heat pumps. And that's important because the buildings in BC represent 11% of our province's emissions, which is a really significant chunk. And over half of our homes here in the province are still heated by fossil fuels. In US specifically, that's mainly natural gas. And the best way we can shift towards a more low carbon future for the homes is to shift towards heat pumps. And when we talk about electrification or decarbonization of homes, we talk about electrification, which just means moving away from a fossil fuel to an electric heating system, because here in BC, we are pretty fortunate that our electricity comes from hydropower. And BC Hydro is on board with that, with their electrification plan. And yeah, that's among the electric heating systems, which you will learn in a bit. Heat pumps are by far the most energy efficient electric heating systems. So they will use a lot less electricity than your electric baseboards or furnace that you're used to. Another reason why we're talking about heat pumps so much these days is because heat pumps simply have a lot of benefits, or bring a lot to the table. First and foremost, heat pumps are the most energy efficient heating and cooling system that you can possibly have worldwide, really. And they provide year-round comfort. So I just mentioned heating and cooling system because it's an air conditioner and a heating system all in one. Also, here in BC, where our electricity comes from hydropower, it is by far the most climate-friendly and energy-efficient way to heat a home. So really, by switching to a heat pump, you will drastically reduce your carbon footprint. Aggie actually mentioned that her heat pump provides air filtration. So I will get into detail about that. It makes your home a lot more healthy. And if you are heating with natural gas, you will no longer pay a carbon tax on your energy bills. Many of you probably know that the carbon tax is steadily increasing over the next few years to 2030, which will make heating with gas a lot less attractive in the future. But let's quickly talk about the energy efficiency actually, because a lot of people wonder, how can a heat pump be so energy efficient? And the reason is a heat pump, other than a gas furnace or an electric furnace, they don't use a fuel or electricity to generate heat from scratch, so to speak. They don't turn something into heat energy. A heat pump absorbs heat energy from the ambient air, heat energy that's already available, and it adds a little bit of extra electricity to operate the compressor and everything to pump that heat energy that it absorbed up to a higher temperature level and releases it into your home. And by utilizing heat that's really already available and pumping it up to a higher temperature level, it's by far the most energy efficient heating system you can get. And because it is so much more efficient than electric baseboards that have an efficiency of 100%, it uses a lot less electricity. So that's a lot less electricity that you would have to pay for. So among the electric heating systems, it's also by far the most cost-effective one. Then talking about cooling and dehumidification, like I said, it's an all-in-one system. You know, we've all went through the heat dome last year, and I personally couldn't stay in my own home in the summer. For 2 nights, I camped in my backyard because I couldn't bear it at night. And I know a lot of people were very concerned about their elderly and their children, their pets, and it was pretty unsafe for some people at home. So having that cooling option for our hotter summers can make your home a lot more comfortable and frankly, a lot more safe. Yeah, so climate friendliness, I said it here in BC, we get our electricity from hydropower, which is considered carbon neutral, which is amazing because we not only get the most efficient heating system, but also the most climate friendly option. And while there's not a lot of oil heating, of course, on the lower mainland, natural gas furnaces and boilers, they have significant greenhouse gas emissions, which you can lower a lot by switching to a heat pump to contribute to your climate goals and consequently the province's climate goals. And I love that Aggie was able to already enjoy the benefits of the better indoor quality of a heat pump because it helps rid your home of indoor pollutants, dust, pollen, any other allergens. And also, unfortunately, it's becoming kind of a normal thing in the summer that we have all these forest fires and so much smoke in the air. So that will really help your home be a lot safer and more comfortable in the summer. And when we talk about the different heating options, I will introduce a type of heat pump that gives you the option to have zonal heating in your home. And when we talk about zonal heating, we just mean that you can heat different parts of the home to different temperature levels. So for example, if you have a basement suite and you want to be able to heat that to a different temperature than upstairs, there's great options like Aggie's heat pump, the mini split. I'll introduce that later. Heat pumps are very low maintenance and actually use the set it and forget it principle, which I will get into detail as well. So yeah, it's a very easy to use system. And to summarize it all, heat pumps simply are the heating system of the future, and that's the heating system that policy is moving towards, that the market is moving towards, and that will simply be the most comfortable and efficient option for you and your home, just like these homeowners here that are on Vancouver Island and Saanich, who installed solar panels and got an electric vehicle, and it was equally important for them to insulate their building envelope, get it nice and airtight, and get a heat pump in there for heating and cooling. And just real quick, again, how heat pumps work. It's actually fairly simple because you all have a type of heat pump at home. It's pretty simple to explain it with your refrigerator, because the way your refrigerator works is it has a refrigerant line in it, which gives it the name. And that refrigerant can absorb heat energy and pump it through a compressor that pumps it up to a higher temperature level to release the warm air into your home. So on the backside of the fridge, which, you know, it's an area we all try to avoid looking at, you will see that there is warm air coming out. And really, that's what a heat pump does too. It absorbs heat from one place and moves it to another. And that way, it can either heat or cool your home. Yeah, just like that. I went a little bit too far, and there's actually a video from BC Hydro that is really great. Dave from BC Hydro, who you might know, it explains how a heat pump works perfectly. So I'm going to be quiet for a second and let Dave take it away.
Hey, it's me, Dave, and this is a heat pump. It's an energy-efficient heating and cooling system you can install at home. How does it work? Here, let me show you. Your typical air source heat pump, like this mini split system, has two main components, an indoor and an outdoor unit, which are connected by a refrigerant line. To heat your home in the winter, the outdoor unit pulls heat from the air outside your home. Yes, believe it or not, even when it's cold, outside air still contains a certain amount of heat. The warm air then goes through a refrigerant coolant that is compressed to increase the temperature even more. This warm air is then pushed through to the home. In the summer, to cool your home, the process is reversed. The heat pump absorbs the warm air in your home and transfers it outside. The compressor circulates refrigerant to the indoor evaporator coil, and the refrigerant absorbs heat as it passes over the indoor air. The resulting cool and dehumidified air then gets blown back into the home. And that's how a heat pump works. The key here is that heat pumps don't generate heat, but instead, they move it from one place to another, which is why heat pumps are so energy efficient. In fact, a heat pump can be up to 300% more efficient than electric baseboards. So if you already have electric heat, a heat pump can help you save on your energy bill. Less energy and more savings? I like. If you're switching from a fossil fuel-based heating source like a natural gas furnace, you'll be reducing your carbon footprint. It's kind of like going from a size 18 down to a size 2. You get the idea. It's an environmentally friendly option, especially here in BC where we're powered by water. Plus, with rebates from Clean BC and BC Hydro, there's more to save.
All right, thank you, Dave. Yeah, I think he explained that perfectly. Instead of generating heat, it moves heat from one place to another. And with that, I will introduce the most common or most popular types of heat pumps that we see being installed here in BC, starting with the central ducted heat pump. And the central ducted heat pump is not the type that Aggie got installed. So we usually got a larger outdoor unit, and it connects with refrigerant lines to an indoor air handler that then connects to ductwork that distributes heat throughout the home. So perfect option for homes that already have existing ductwork. Among the heat pumps, both mini split and central systems, there's also cold climate versions. While, you know, the winters in New West aren't that that cold. They're fairly mild. This might still be a great option because heat pumps, those cold climate heat pumps, they can work extremely efficiently in conditions down to minus 25 degrees Celsius. So depending on what kind of heat pump you want, what kind of supplemental heating you want, this might be a great option as well. And for the central systems, there's also the heat pumps that we call dual fuel ducted heat pumps. Dual fuel because they use a natural gas or a propane furnace that's integrated with the heat pump to provide backup heating at a certain temperature switchover set point. That is not necessarily required for milder climates like on the Lower Mainland or on Vancouver Island, but it is certainly an option. And then finally, the mini split or ductless mini split heat pump. That is the type that Aggie got installed. We usually got a smaller outdoor unit that is connected with refrigerant lines to commonly indoor heads that are mounted on the wall. You saw them in the pictures earlier. But among the mini split heat pumps, there's also types of indoor components that can be indoor heads, a mix of indoor heads and mini ducts that are installed in an attic. So in real life, that could look something like this. Usually they're installed in an attic or in a crawl space. So you see those mini splits are very versatile and they have different names. Sometimes they're called mini split or multi-split, and sometimes they're simply called split system. So now when we compare ducted to ductless heat pumps, every home is unique. So a contractor should be able to make the best call what kind of heat pump makes sense for your home. But generally speaking, if you have a pre-existing furnace and your ductwork is in really good shape, you enjoy that central type of heating, then going with a central system is a great idea. Whereas like in Aggie's case, for example, where they had electric baseboards, no ductwork infrastructure, it would have been very, very expensive to install ductwork throughout the house. So for them, a mini split was a great idea. A mini split is also awesome for smaller homes, more open concept homes, for homes that have a basement or an in-law suite that they want to heat to a different temperature level. And then we get tons of questions, of course, from homeowners all the time and a lot of concerns about heat pumps, you know, things they hear floating around. So we thought it's about time to debunk a few myths, starting with a really big one, and that is that heat pumps are expensive to purchase. That's a very common concern, rightfully so. Heat pumps can be expensive, but the range is very broad for heat pumps and gas furnaces. So what you see here is a range of what we've seen through rebate programs, how much gas furnaces and heat pumps can cost. You see in both cases, it's a very broad range, so it's pretty hard to give people a ballpark number because the cost highly depends, just like with cars, for example, on the brand and the size and layout of your home that you have, the efficiency of the heat pump or the gas furnace. It depends on so many factors, you can't really give a ballpark number. But we got an average here of this really broad cost range, so take that with a grain of salt. Your heat pump might be a lot more or less expensive than this. But what I can tell you is that the rebates for heat pump are absolutely amazing at the moment. So you get a base rebate of up to $11,000 for a heat pump at the moment, switching from a fossil fuel, which makes the cost of a heat pump after rebates on average very, very comparable to a gas furnace. Plus you get the air conditioning, and also you significantly reduce your greenhouse gas emissions if you switch from gas. Of course, for a lot of people, noise is a concern, and the older generation of heat pumps certainly is a lot more noisy. But heat pumps decibel ratings range around 50 to 60, whereas in comparison, a dryer is a lot louder, or toilet flushing as well. Heat pumps do come with decibel ratings, so if that's really a concern for you, talk to your contractor about heat pumps that have lower decibel ratings. And actually, oh, I skipped that. At the City of Vancouver, they have a heat pump and noise FAQ guide. That is a really great document that you will have access to, and it comes with a ton of tips and tricks what contractors can do to really reduce noise level for heat pumps. Some people think that heat pumps, because they're kind of a different type of heating system, require a ton of maintenance. However, similar to most heating systems, they do require fairly low maintenance, mostly to schedule a service appointment with your installer every year or two to make sure that everything's fine with the refrigerant mainly. And one of the most common questions that we get is, well, what will my hydro bill be like after I install a heat pump? And this is a really hard question to answer because, again, it highly depends on so many different factors. It will depend, again, on the size and layout of your home. What type and brand of heat pump did you get? How many indoor heads? Is it a central system? What is the efficiency rating for heating and cooling? Do you have any backup heating? And especially, what is the state of your home in? Do you, is your home nicely insulated, very airtight? Do you have good windows? And also, what are the occupants' behavior? How do you heat the home? So it's pretty much impossible to really answer that question for an individual without doing a whole energy assessment of the home. But generally speaking, I can definitely tell you a few things that will be true for everyone, because fact is, you will be seeing changes to your hydro bill. If you're switching from a fossil fuel heating system like a gas furnace to a heat pump, and now you're heating with electricity, then obviously you will see an increase in your electricity bill. However, that will be offset by a decrease in your fossil fuel bill, of course, which, with the carbon tax steadily increasing in the next few years, heating with gas will become a lot more expensive. And if you are already heating with electricity and now you're heating with a heat pump, you will probably see a bunch of energy savings because the heat pump's so much more efficient than any other electric heating system. Then, of course, the operating cost will depend on the efficiency of your heat pump. If you have a variable speed compressor, if you have really good heating and cooling efficiency ratings, or even go with a cold climate heat pump, which are the Cadillacs of the heat pumps, then you will see lower operating costs. Of course, it depends on the quality of installation and to make sure that the heat pump is sized properly for your home, that has the capacity to heat your home. And last but really not least, because it is a very important point, is to look at your house as a whole system. So before getting any new heating system installed, doesn't matter if that's a heat pump or a gas furnace, it's very important that you ask yourself, well, what are my insulation levels like? Is my home adequately insulated? Do I have good windows? And especially, is it airtight? Because you could install the best heat pump in the world. If you lose all that heat through cracks and poorly insulated walls and attics, then you will lose a lot of money as well. So that's why we say building envelope upgrades first. You want to make sure that you live in an efficient home before you get a new heating system, that your heating system has been very well installed by a qualified installer, and that you go with a heat pump that has high efficiency ratings. And of course, maintenance will also play into the efficiency. So regularly, mainly clear the indoor unit of the filters of dust and pollen, especially after forest fire season. clear that outdoor unit of debris, leaves, snow, and dirt after winter storms, especially, and schedule that annual servicing appointment with your installer. Also, really important to know in terms of operating cost and how to operate a heat pump, they work differently than a gas furnace does because it doesn't burn a fuel and then blast hot air into your home. A heat pump will have to absorb heat from the ambient air outside and then pump it up to a higher temperature level. So to get to a certain temperature level, the heat pump can take quite a while, but once it's there, it's running extremely efficiently and smoothly. And that's why it's important to set it and forget it. So you want to put your heat pump thermostat to your preferred temperature level and ideally leave it at that. That doesn't mean that you can turn it up or down by a few degrees, but it's important to know that the heat pump will run the most efficiently if you leave it at an even temperature level. Lastly, in terms of the myths, heat pumps don't work in cold weather. We hear that all the time, but it is not true. Heat pumps operate in temperatures as low as -25 degrees at high efficiency, and there's examples all around North America. So those are the cold climate heat pumps I was talking about. We got some in Colorado or in New England, but also here in Canada. Nova Scotia is very active with their heat pump rollout, and their winters are a lot harsher than ours here. Quickly, before we move to the rebates, I just want to share a few tips of things you should know before buying a heat pump. First of all, cannot emphasize enough how important it is to really do your homework, reach out to multiple qualified installers, avoid buying wholesale or online, and getting multiple quotes from installers. I know that a lot of people have long wait times to get quotes at the moment. However, it is really worth the wait and the work because you want to make sure that you go with an installer who knows the rebates, who has a fair price, who carries high efficiency models. So that is an important tip. Talked about house as a system. Before you think about getting a heat pump installed, make sure that you're addressing the insulation levels and the air tightness of your home. You're not doing yourself a favor if you install a heat pump in a leaky home or any new heating system really. And then make sure that your contractor is sizing the heat pump right. And a really great way is to start with an EnerGuide home evaluation. Through the Energy Save New West program, you get this amazing discount. Evaluations are pretty expensive. So through Energy Save New West, your base fee is $75 plus GST. That's absolutely great. And you get an unbiased whole home energy assessment. Speaking of contractors, you can find heat pump contractors on the Clean BC Better Homes website, which I will properly introduce to you in a second. And on this website, you can select heat pump and, type in New Westminster, for example, hit submit, and you get a list of contractors who are registered with the program who can install your heat pump. It's a great place to start. You currently don't have to work with one of those contractors to get a rebate. However, that will change on July 1st. So all heat pump installations after July 1st have to be done with a registered contractor from this list. All right, we've made it to the rebate section, something you're probably very interested in. We don't have a ton of time, so I will probably be flying through this, which means that you will very likely feel overwhelmed by all the numbers and information, but don't worry, I will share a really great resource with you where you can find all the rebates that are fitting your specific situation, your specific home. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that the rebates that I'm discussing are available as of today, May 26th. It's May 26th. And if you are installing a heat pump at a later point, it's always worth it checking in with those resources I'm about to share. First, when we talk about the rebates, great news, there's 2 major programs out there. There are our provincial Clean BC rebates, plus the municipal top-up from New Westminster. And we got the federal Canada Greener Homes Grant, 2 completely separate programs, but you can access both of them up to 100% of your cost. In the next slide, I'm going to share a lot of numbers with you. So we're just going to go over it really quick. You get a few different types of heat pumps here, and the current rebates that are available through both Clean BC and Canada Greener Homes. For switching over from an electric heating system like baseboards or an electric furnace to a heat pump, it ranges between $1,000 and $7,000. And then we got the amazing rebates switching from a fossil fuel like gas to a heat pump, which range between $3,000 and $11,000. Really great time to get a heat pump. Where do you find all this information when you're a little bit overwhelmed later? You find it on betterhomesbc.ca. That's our Clean BC Better Homes website. This is your one-stop shop for learning about incentives, about rebates, finding contractors and energy advisors. We got a ton of frequently asked questions about heat pumps where you can learn about them. And the best thing about the program, in my opinion, is that they come with real people that you can call and ask your questions. They're super well trained. They really know their stuff. So please don't hesitate to give the energy coaches a call at this toll-free number, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, if you want to discuss your situation, or you can also shoot them an email. On the website, you'll find a rebate search tool where you can plug in all your information or your situation, and it will come up with a list of rebates that you could access. When you click on any of those, it will give you the summary page with everything you need to know, from deadlines to requirements to application form links. And if you ever get confused, then you just call an energy coach. Just real quick for the Clean BC rebates, it's just important that they are only available for single family, side-by-side, row homes or duplexes or mobile homes on a permanent foundation, not available for condos or apartments at the moment. And every heat pump needs to be on a qualifying product list. It has to meet certain efficiency standards. On the next couple slides, there are different scenarios for different heating scenarios. I know that you get your electricity from New Westminster, which ultimately gets their electricity from BC Hydro. So this applies to you as well. For homes that are heated with electricity, you get a $1,000 rebate for a mini split and $2,000 for a central system. And for fossil fuel heated homes, we have those great $6,000 rebates through Clean BC. For different types of heat pumps, so if you don't go all electric, you keep a gas furnace as a backup, the rebate is definitely lower. And Aggie mentioned earlier, she had to upgrade her electrical panel, and there is a great $500 rebate for that as well. So that's the rebates, and rebates just mean you pay up front and then you get reimbursed after applying. But Clean BC also has an alternative, which is the low interest financing program. So instead of getting a rebate, you can also choose to finance your heat pump at 0% over 5 years, and the loans are between $1,000 and $40,000. You have to work with a finance registered contractor. However, so you can find that finance registered contractor on the website as well. And Clean BC has a really great little add-on rebate. It's called the group purchase rebate. So if you work together with other homeowners to switch from a fossil fuel to a heat pump, each group member can get an extra rebate on top of their normal rebate. You have to start a group or register with a group code to be part of this program. And then if everyone in the group submits their rebate application around the same time, then everyone can get an extra rebate on top. Speaking about extra rebate on top, a lot of municipalities like New Westminster work together with Clean BC to provide municipal top-ups. The great thing about the municipal top-ups is if you're switching from a fossil fuel, like oil, gas, propane, to a heat pump, you can get this and you don't have to fill out an extra application form. It will be applied to your rebate automatically when you apply for the provincial rebate. And lastly, part of the Clean BC family of rebates, a very new program. It's great. It's an income qualified version of the Clean BC rebates. So if you find yourself in one of those income brackets here, you can get the normal rebates just enhanced. So they will cover either 60 or 95% of your upgrade cost. For heat pumps specifically, because you could also get that for insulation and windows and things like that. For heat pumps specifically, that means up to $9,500 for switching from a fossil fuel, or up to $5,000 for switching from electric baseboards. So quite a bit higher than the normal rebate amount, but you have to work with an income qualified contractor because they are set up to be able to reduce your cost by the rebate amount right away. So you wouldn't have to pay for it upfront and then get reimbursed. You don't pay for that chunk to start with. So a really great program. And lastly, the Canada Greener Homes program. So this one is a federal nationwide program. It is completely different than Clean BC. And that program offers $5,000, up to $5,000 towards upgrades such as a heat pump or solar panels or windows or insulation. And they also offer $600 towards an pre and a post retrofit Energuide home evaluation, because unlike the Clean BC programs, this Canada Greener Homes grant requires you to do a pre-retrofit evaluation before you get started on upgrades, and you have to do post-retrofit evaluation after you get started. For you folks in New West, this is actually amazing because you can register for the Energy Save New West program, which gives you that highly discounted pre-retrofit evaluation. So you'll pay a lot less than anyone else in this province. So yeah, and then for heat pumps specifically, that grant ranges between $2,500 and $5,000. That's the max that you can get. And the great thing is it stacks with the Clean BC rebates. However, what I do want to say is that it's important that you start with that Energuide home evaluation, and then you will have to register with the Canada Greener Homes grant. Clean BC doesn't require the pre-registration or the evaluation, but if you want to access both programs, you have to start with the evaluation and register for Canada Greener Homes. After that, we just recommend calling an energy coach because, once you get your reports from your energy advisor, just to make sure that you're navigating both programs right, because both programs come with their own sets of requirements and terms and conditions. For instance, Clean BC has a 6 months deadline to apply, whereas Canada Greener Homes doesn't have a deadline, but for Canada Greener Homes, you have to do an evaluation and so on. So it comes really handy to have energy coaches you can call toll free, and highly recommend doing that. You can also inquire about the exact rebate amounts for your scenarios. Canada Greener Homes also comes with their own client services. They got a phone number and they also got the world's longest email address. So there's definitely help out there. And with that, we made it to the end of the presentation, and I'd start the end by thanking you for your time and your curiosity. I hope you know more about heat pumps than you did an hour ago. I think from the corner of my eye, I saw that the chat was very busy. So I'll hand it over to my colleague Sam to talk about questions.